kufanya job, waende wa fly out wapate do. So sasa EDAC imepatiwa mafuta ya kungurumisha engine. That's why we have, of course, the two gentlemen here. Also Dennis Kaitanyi, who is the Senior Compliance Officer at EDAC. Dennis, karibu sana.
Thank you.
Wacha tu nianze na Bildad, the Head of Legal Affairs at Legal Services at EDAC. Bildad, mumedungwa budget. Najua tayari mshafanya preliminary meetings. How did you take that information? How did you take that particular pronouncement by the finance CS?
Thank you very much, Tony. I think we've come a long way.
Yes.
At the beginning of this year, it was all doom and gloom.
Yes.
Lakini ilifika mahali we had to put everyone on the table so that we can be able to discuss on how much we need, what we need to do, what are the implications of what had happened, because our budget initially was 298 million per annum, yeah. But it was slashed to 20 million only. That could not cover anything.
Yeah,
could not cover anything. So tulikuwa na a lot of ilikuwa inaitwa nini ile yenye Mheshimiwa Kalonzo alikuwa anafanya through Africa?
Inaitwanga shuttle diplomacy.
Tulifanya hiyo kabisa. So we did a lot of that to the office of the Cabinet Secretary, Parliament, National Treasury, and that is what has culminated to what we have right now. Mm-hmm. It is not the 298 that we wanted,
yes, but
chini ya maji naweza kuambia we are looking at even 310 for this coming financial year. So we are on the right trajectory right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me bring also Dennis, the compliance officers there. The plans that you have, just from what Bildad is mentioning, that you have a budget of around yenyu inafika 300, but serikali imesema hebu anzeni na hii 241. Can you break down some of what you're supposed really to do in terms of ensuring that this compliance maneno happen vizuri, na kama hii deficit ita affect kazi yako?
Thank you, Tony. So when we didn't have the money, we had a bit of money na tulikuwa tuna focus sana on athletics. Mm-hmm. But now with the reinstatement of the budget, now tuna focus on the other sports. Yeah. And that is what is going to be enhanced. Now the other sports, football, rugby, everyone is going to be covered. And kuna kitu something that is called TDP. Hiyo ni test distribution plan. Unajua pia testing hatufanyangi hivi, lazima yes, kuna plan. Mm-hmm. Na pia kwa education kuna education plan. Mm-hmm. So with this reinstatement of this budget, hapo ndio mahali sasa tuna focus. Itakuwa broken down to cover every other discipline, including triathlon, or everyone who has signed on to the rules. Mm-hmm. So that we are now covering all the disciplines as needed in our plans.
Indeed.
Yes.
Bildad, your immediate priorities, I know maybe that's also Dennis can speak on it, but of course, what will be a very, very, is it needy? Yani zile immediate, zile vitu za maana ambazo zinastahili, the urgent in cases that or issues that you need to deal with now that you have this budget. What are those? Of course, towards those ones that are not very, they're important, yes, but they're not very, they're not a priority at the moment.
Yeah, I think as my brothers put it, the TDP will guide us on how we are going to yes, implement and use these particular funds. But of great importance to us is that time hatukuwa na do, hatukuwa able kufanya a lot of the anti-doping program on the other sports. As you know, CHAN is coming.
Yes.
So we have to put a lot of focus on that. You know the number of teams that are going to participate. And being the National Anti-Doping Organization, of course, we will be covering that particular event. Now, even the run-up to CHAN, of course, we'll be putting a lot of emphasis on it. One of the things that we may take into consideration yes, is the fact that time we didn't have the money, tulienda chini kidogo na these other sports, so therefore saa hii tunaanza kuzirudisha kuzipatia ile kipaumbele yes, so that at least we don't concentrate so much on athletics, we now focus on the other sports.
And Dennis, how badly or how dangerously were your activities impacted with budgetary cuts, just before, of course, now that we have this new figure, of course, I've heard what Bildad also has shared, how other sports are not being involved. But how gloom, how bad was the situation? And of course, internationally as well, how are we looking now that we had those small budgets at that time? Kulikuwa na shida gani hapo? Najua, of course, mko mnajua kuna kitu inaweza fanyika ya Kenya, tunyimwe kitu fulani. How bad was it? Najua huwezi sema kila kitu, but how bad was it?
So Tony, yes, definitely hizo sports zingine zilikuwa affected sana. But they were not affected to the point where atungeweza kuparticipate at the international level. Okay. However, hawakupata the support that was really needed in terms of education and testing, but it was not significant to the point where ilitukata miguu, you know. So there was testing going on, there was education going on, but at a very minimum level. One of the things, Sai, I don't know whether you are aware, we were audited by WADA, and hiyo issue will come up, definitely. It was due to obvious reasons, but at this point in time, you know, we are still now, since tumepata kakitu sasa, we are now rectifying it. It was not that bad, but it had affected us just slightly, yes.
Bildad, nakumbuka kulikuwa na umdosi wa, I think ni wa IOC ama ni wa athlete wa IAAF ambaye alikam Kenya na akakutana na president. Na hiyo kwa ndio time ulikuwa mmedungwa 20 million. Ilikuwa 20 million ulikuwa mmedungwa time. Ikabidi ashike prezo. Wakakutana nyuma ya tent ya State House. Wakaongea. Do you think hiyo mikutano hiyo shuttle diplomacy ama hiyo lobbying ya IAAF na IOC ilichangia pia kwa hii point ya kuensure that at least now wekeni budget bwana, ama hiyo kitu ilikuwa imeplaniwa tu?
No, actually, by the time the president of World Athletics were coming to the country was as a result of the increased number of doping cases that tulikuwa tumeanza kuwa nazo. So there was a lot of concern from at the global stage. So, I mean, the international community felt that something is wrong in Kenya. Something needs to be done. In fact, at that time, there was a discussion at World Athletics, and Kenya would have actually been banned at that particular time. So the cabinet secretary then approached the president of World Athletics na akamexplainia what is happening and where we are, and that is how Lord Sebastian Coe found his way to Kenya. And I want to thank His Excellency the President for according the opportunity to just have a sitting with him. Now, what came out of that particular meeting, in fact, hata increased funding, we came up with something called the Enhanced Athletics Anti-Doping Program. Okay. Now, that one, the government will commit $5 million per year to increase both anti-doping education and the testing program, so that at least tuweze kucover athletics comprehensively. Now, I think that time, hiyo discussion yenye wali have at that particular time, ilisaidia pia kufungua macho ya the government to understand that uwezi plan, for example, CHAN na umeua Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya. It cannot work that way. Anti-doping ndio iko hapo juu, inakusafishia the sport, then now you can be able to participate.
True, that's very important. I hope wale wadosi wa sports ministry mnasikiza, amwezi fanya bila EDAC. Hiyo inafaa tu mjue mapema. EDAC na wewe ministry buko tu WhatsApp group moja. Lazima pia mdunga sedo wafanye kazi yao. But of course I know it's something that was in house walikuwa mnapanga hiyo. Dennis, now that we have this funding, tuko na ido now there's this uko mashinani sort of programs that you do or campaigns. Kuna zile county level mnafanyaga, unless kama nadanganya unaweza utaturectify hapo. Kuna zile za national, kuna zile international, locally. Sasa kama just in a skeleton way, hii program inakaaje now that mko na hii for in the next 3 months tunaona nini, in the next 6 months tutaona nini. Tuko na CHAN, umesema CHAN ndo immediate, but pia tuko na World Athletics Championships kule huko in China, Japan, correct. And then of course vitu ni mingi, mambo ni mengi, mko na time mko resources.
Yeah, so vile tu umesema time tu ndio issue, but the resources tuko nayo.
Yes.
But tukiangalia maneno ya mashinani, tukiangalia all those levels vile zimeenda, I can tell you that what we've been able to do, and it will act as a structure of where we are going. Collaborate with schools like St. Anthony's in Kitale, and you know they are a powerhouse in terms of hockey and football. Pia tulienda pale Vihiga, and you know they are very good in rugby. Those boys are very good in rugby. And in the Rausha Kipaji tournament that took place in Nakuru. Those are some of the things zenye tumefanya education. And hiyo ndio tumetarget where this talent is rising from. And that is the trajectory we are looking at. So we are not only looking at these international level events. Tunaangalia all the way from the grassroots to the international level. I might not be able to give you the exact things that we are going to do. However, that is the trajectory we are taking. And testing is there as well, following the same route. We have the TDP, vile nilikuwa nimekuambia hiyo plan ya testing, and haikover to the international level events. No, inacover all the way to these grassroots tournaments.
Indeed.
Yes.
Bildad, nilikuwa na nini, najua WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency, of course, mna work together. It's a body, of course, that you have to constantly be in communication with, physically, virtually, and all those other interactions that you have to have. You mentioned, of course, the president, World Athletics. What at least wameweza to calm down situations. Going forward, your relationship inakaaje? Now, have they given you ultimatums? I'm using, that's a very harsh, sort of guidelines or things that you need to achieve for them to be relaxed at the headquarters. Asema tu, sawa, sahi Kenya, tusiwasumbue sana. Because sahi najua they're on the edge of their seats, Kenya wata comply. But what are the things that now you have to work towards to ensure that WADA feels comfortable with our Kenyan athletes?
One thing I can tell you for sure, Tony, is that WADA will never relax. That is because, you know, Kenya si ni powerhouse.
Si ni powerhouse. Lazima tuangalie, lazima tuchunguze.
Sisi Olympics bila Kenya si Olympics.
True.
So there is no way they will ever come down. But one of the things that we have done over the years, and I don't think there's any other country in the world which is more compliant with WADA's guidelines like Kenya. And our communication, hata venye umesema virtual, physical, emails, phone calls, ni on a daily basis, because of where Kenya is placed at the moment. So that kind of working will continue definitely. As my brother also mentioned, last year walikuja wakatufanyia ile compliance audit. Now one of the things that they did, and they normally do it very well, is that they look at all your processes. Na wanazi break down, wanawaambia hapa you need to increase this, you need to enhance this particular area, you need to change the way you're doing this, and then they give you timelines. So we've been working with them to give the corrective action. That is what we've been working on over time now. Na of course mambo ya funding was one of it. Na sahi kwenye tuko na wao, they are comfortable, they're okay, they feel like yes, Kenya, you're starting to bring back the money to be able to do the work that we expect you to be able to do. But in terms of the day in, day out communication, that will continue. And over the coming days, and then weeks and months, tutaendelea kuzungumza nao.
Masimu zitakuwa
definitely. The moment tumewafunga WADA out of the communication, then ni kubaya.
You'll find yourself alone in very deep waters. Dennis, athletes, footballers, rugby players, name them, swimmers, all of this. I remember we had this conversation with you last time out when mulikuwa hapa mkasema there's a sort of, there are programs that you always engage them so that athletes wasijione wako huko na EDAC iko huku, and then EDAC ni kama inakuja kutafuta athletes. Wewe umekunywa miadarati, wewe ulikula nini muguka, as in, so Now that you have this funding, how will you be able to penetrate to the athletes, to reach them, to make sure that EDAC and athletes are in the same WhatsApp group? Because najua wanasemanga watu wa EDAC wanakuja kunitest tu, najua wanaonanga nyinyi mko huko haiko hapa, so wakiona tu EDAC ameingia chini ya miti ati watu EDAC kwa gate siko nimeenda kwa mtoni.
Thank you Tony. So one thing na ni kitu tumejaribu kufanya for a very long time. But remember, and it is also something that I raised the last time nilikuwa hapa, is that tuna work na the federations. Remember, the federation is now the parent of this athlete. Yes. And when we come through the federation, I think that is the proper approach. Hatutakuwa ni kama sisi ni polisi hapana. Tunaambia federation, and most of them are very compliant. They provide for us information that we need. Wana mobilize their members whenever we need to educate them.
Yes.
So going through the federation is one of the ways imetusaidia sana in terms of coming out in good light. And remember, at the end of the day, Tony, tunachunga the clean athlete. Yes. So wale wenye wanadope, the group wanajijua. Hawa sasa ndio wanatuona na hiyo bad light. And another thing is athletes wenye wana dope inaitwa inadvertent doping. Ile amedope but hakuwa na intention ya kudope. We actually take them with very open hands na tunawapatia hiyo opportunity ya ku-apply for ile kitu inaitwa therapeutic use exemption. So unaona yeye ametest positive but hakuwa na intention ya kudope. Yes. Unaona. And we don't want to hurt that athlete. Anaweza kuwa it was a legitimate treatment. Unaona. Sasa akikuja sisi badala ya kumpiga kiboko tukimwambia kitu ilipatikanaje kwa mwili yako, tutamwambia hapana, uko na opportunity, kaa chini, tupatie documents, madaktari wetu wanaangalia, kisha hata kesi inaweza fungiwa.
Yeah, it's very important for that kind of engagement. And Bildad, I was looking at I think there are, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, from your data or from the kind of reports we hear, there was a time tulikuwa tunasikia tu cases nachomoka tu leo tu kidogo nani has been banned. Kidogo nani amepatikana sijui na nini kwa mwili. There was that certain period from your data and from your, of course, the gathering information that you got, what could have been the case as to why we had a certain increase of the usage of banned substances at particular times, and why we don't hear it during certain times or periods of the year or the season?
Yeah. One of the things I would say, Tony, is that athletes are very smart, and especially wale wakora. They are extremely smart, and that is why we normally say that in anti-doping it's always evolving. Na ukiwa kwa hii side yetu ulale kidogo, bro yako imeishia.
Utaharibu kazi.
Yeah, so every single day we normally look for ways zenye tunaweza tukue at one step ahead of them, because tukirelax tu kidogo tutaona giza. So this one of the things that we've noted over time is that you will find that there will be a popular prohibited substance. As a popular prohibited, kuna time EPO ndio ilikuwa the drug or the substance of choice. Na tukasafisha EPO ikaisha. Tukakuja tukapata kitu inaitwa triamcinolone na acetonide. Na hiyo pia sasa ikakuwa on another level. The reason why the cases have actually gone down, it's true they are going down. Last year, tulianza kuimplement hii enhanced athletics anti-doping program. Tuli raid sana. Tulikuwa mpaka tunafanya kitu tunaitwa mass testing, where tunaingia tu kwa camp, tunapata athletes wote wana train, tunaweka pamoja na tunawatest wote, because we had the resources. $5 million kufanya testing program is good money. So we were able to do a lot of work. Naweza kuambia last calendar year nilikuwa na 70 cases. Na normally cases zilikuanga ni about per year 25 to 30. But tulienda all the way to 70. Saa hii niko less than 20. So you can imagine, as in where we are playing at, we are now safe. In June, actually not less than 20, but less than 30 cases. So in June, na hapo ndio tuko saa hii, it means that we are moving the right direction. So in anti-doping unafaa kuwa very careful kwa sababu kuna certain drugs zenye athletes wanatumianga saa ile wako off season. Time yenye wanajua they are preparing for a major event. Na pia kuna drug yenye time hiyo event inaendelea ama immediately after kuna drug ambao wanatumia. So we have to be smart enough to catch those ones who are using those particular substances. But also, since the anti-doping program is not all about to nikutest, utoke positive. Let me tell you, Tony, do you know that athletes became so smart that they were doing what you call microdosing? Microdosing.
Okay.
Hii anatumia kidogo tu kwa mwili. Ukimtest hautaiona, but iko na effect. And you know the funniest thing is this, an athlete thinks akitumia hii dawa ina enhance performance, ana perform, ana win, unajua. But at the end of the day, kumbuka pia substance ni harmful to the health of that. And that is what, yes, and that is what we also preach a lot. We tell them this is what is happening. So to manage this microdosing, what we've been able to do is that to come up na something called athlete passport, biological passport. So we collect your blood over a period of time and we analyze it. So that means kama January hukutumia na tukachukua blood yako na tukaona vile inakaa, ukitumia March na tuchukue, na hata kama umetumia kale kadogo, tutaona certain parameters zimebadilika. Now that is what now we are catching athletes on that one too. So we keep on evolving day in, day out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've done. Yeah, that's a lot of in-depth. Kuna zingine pia ungesema zenye hizo ni siri zenyu za your ingredients. Dennis, of course, I've heard from Bildad, you work with a lot of other agencies. I can imagine, you've mentioned, of course, federations, but other either government or non-governmental agencies. Who are these that you work with? And this, of course, is for the benefit of the athlete, so that they are aware that ukikuja EDAC, you are also working, for example, with the Ministry of Health, or you're working together with the Ministry of Tourism, or hiyo zote inafaa wajue, ndio wakikuona Dennis ametokelezea, anajua amebeba mawe mingi za different na ana feel very comfortable. Which are these kind of agencies or organizations that of course you partner or work with?
Tony, sasa I think umetupatia opportunity kama ADAC to flex kidogo. Uonyesha ile team tuko nayo.
Kabisa.
But we work with a lot of agencies. Na tukianza huko juu kabisa, definitely with WADA.
Okay.
We also work with the international federations. Sasa ukienda kwa athletics ni World Athletics, nayo anti-doping yao ni AIU. And then kuna wengine wanaitwa ITA. Huwa wanasaidia a lot of those international federations. We work with them both in testing, education, investigations. Yes. Locally, we work with DCI, definitely. We work with NIS. We also work with, and this is a very important one, I want athletes wasikize. We work with the Witness Protection Agency. So athlete akifeel threatened, akifeel ametishiwa maisha ati ukinisema nikifanya hivi ati nitakumaliza. So we have a lot of backup from the Witness Protection Agency. We also work with, from the Ministry of Health, sasa KMPDC, Clinical Officers Council, because unajua a lot of these people wenye wana inject, wenye wana administer, they are medical professionals. So we use their regulators kuwafinya hawa wenyewe. We also now work with the national federations, that one I had stated, and we also work with the ODPP. Because some of these doping offenses are criminal. And that is why we want to work with a vast group of institutions so that we make sure that we cover everything that needs to be covered. Okay. Yes.
Bildad, of course, itaguzia now that we have this, anajua hii imekuja tu off mind. Huyu athlete amepatikana na hii kesi, and most of these athletes, they will want to defend themselves. Other athletes might be ndo ameanza career, akaingia kwa doping, akashikwa, mkamsaidia, mkafanya rehabilitation program. Do you offer athletes with, for example, attorneys or attorney ni majuu, lawyers to assist them to walk them through. Of course hata nani Dennis alikuwa ameguzia, but now kuna athlete anasema sasa nikishikwa sina pesa ya lawyer, nimekuwa hapa hivi mtanifanya nikae vibaya. Such kind of athletes, how do you walk with them? Especially those now who have to face the music for the consequences of what the action they did.
I think it is important to just reiterate that there are various types of dopers. Kuna ule anafanya akiwa anajua Kenya anafanya na ana try all manner of tricks in the book get away with it, na kuna mwingine anajipatanga either ni bahati mbaya ama alikuwa influenced. You know, there are a lot of categories. Now, one of the things zenye I think ni important athlete ajue ni kwamba in case umetest positive na umeambiwa you have tested positive, don't look at ADAK as an enemy. You are a Kenyan, I'm also a Kenyan. I'm here to help you. So the first thing that you're supposed to do, kuja kwetu. Let us sit with you. Tutakupatia options zote zile ziko available. Nikwambie, ukinipatia information about another athlete, hiyo inaitwa substantial assistance, which is very good. It means bale ubaniwe 4 years, unaweza tapaniwa hata 2 months, hata 1 month, ama hata hiyo bani inaweza kosa kuingia. Kuna results management agreements, meaning kuliko face 4 years, kubali makosa sahihi haraka haraka, tukupea 3 years. Userve normally. And I can tell you by the way, most athletes now are taking that results management agreement very seriously. A lot of cases tunazifunga hivyo nowadays. Now, in case kama kesi yako imeenda kwa tribunal, because we take them to the sports dispute tribunal. Ikifika kwa tribunal, one of the things that yenye judiciary imefanya vizuri sana through the sports dispute tribunal, create a pool ya pro bono counsels. These pro bono counsels offer their services to these athletes for free. In fact, there's a joke wanasemanga utapatiwa wakili bure. Si wakili bure, utapatiwa wakili wa bure. Okay? So that akusaidia kwa kesi yako. Ni wakili mwenye anaelewa, anajua how to defend you. Because ukijidefend wewe mwenyewe kama athlete, there are so many things zenye unaweza miss. Lakini huyu wakili ako hapo kukupatia assistance. So hata kama utakuja kwa ADAK, enda kwa sports dispute tribunal waambie tafadhali nisaidieni na wakili. Na ukumbuke anytime tuna lodge kesi, swali yenye athlete anaulizwanga siku ya kwanza ni ungependa upatiwe wakili wa bure? Tafadhali kama wewe ni mwanariadha umejipata kwa hiyo shida, usiwahi sema hapana, sema ndio, kwa sababu atakusaidia sana na atakuonyesha njia ya kuweza kujitetea. Sababu anti-doping si kama kesi ya kuiba kuku. Utasema uliniona nilikuwa nimevaa nguo gani? Huko maswali sio kama hiyo. Sasa ni yeye huyu wakili ndiye atakuonyesha njia yenye unafaa kujisaidia katika hizi kesi za anti-doping.
Yeah, that was very important. That was hiyo ilikuwa kitu ya maana sana, sababu watu wengi hujipata kwamba wameketi tu, hawajui wamejipata kwa hiyo kesi ya hizi madawa za kututumua misuli na hajui aanzie wapi. So umeambiwa ADAK itakusaidia. Unaulizwa kama unataka wakili ambaye atakusaidia, ambaye ni wa bure, unakubali. Kama wewe uko na uko na kakitu kwa bank na unataka tu upige shughuli zako, pia I think you have that kind of leeway as well. So sasa mnajua. Niliwaambia lazima mkuwe mna watch Sports Extravaganza ndio mjue hizi vitu. Dennis, of course, as we wind up, niko na kama dakika 3 before nichukue break ingine. There's this now mko na hiyo deficit. Hapa builder amesema mko na 241 na mnahitaji 310. What? 310. Kwanza nakumbuka 310 ilikuwa pasta fulani. 011. Wacha tufanye calculation tu saa 11. Hii ni 7. Amuna 70 million. Mko na other avenues and ways of ensuring that hii budget tu mnafanya kazi yenu. Mko na partners watakuja wa chip in, ama hapa tu hivi ndo mtasonga tu na hii pesa?
Sasa Tony, hiyo ndio nijibu hiyo swali, hata sijui nitaweza kujua. So being a government agency, we purely depend on the treasury and the exchequer. So hatuwezi sema ati wacha leo bana tuchukue haka kapesa tuweke mahali ya ADAK ipate interest. So we can't do that. So we purely depend on the exchequer. However, there are other sources of funding and grants that we can be able to pursue. However, penye mimi niko sahi kama senior compliance officer, I can't make that decision. Yes, but we purely depend on the exchequer
for that. Yeah. Najua itapatikana 70 million inaweza. 70 million itapatikana. Bwana nani tafuta 70 million. Chia ngwana. Tukimalizia of course as we wind up. Kama kuna kitu nimeacha Bildad, if anything I've left immediate future hadi akienda kufanya nini? Tukienda sasa tuko June, tunaenda July, August or September. Some of the things that we have, of course, as we end up niko na dakika mbili.
So basically we are now going to start the new financial year. So unajua serikali mwaka inaanza 1st of July. So sasa ndio tunajaribu kuangalia kufanya the reports. What have we done for the last financial year? Of course, unajua imekuwa ngumu sana because of the funding issues. But from 1st of July, one of the things yenye tunapatia a lot of priority sahi ni kwanza kufunga hizi corrective actions tuko nazo na WADA. Remember, WADA is still watching us na hatufai kulala. So the first thing we are going to do ni tumalizana corrective action to make sure that everything that WADA expects us to do, we've done it. So that now we can kickstart the program. And as we said, we are so happy that exchequer yetu imerudi. Unajua sisi in terms of the anti-doping program, aturuhusiwi kwenda kutafuta maybe mtu kama sponsor, akuja atupatie kakitu, alafu ata influence, umeipata, good. So hatuwezi enda mahali tuwaambie watupatie. Sababu hao two sponsors ndio wana sponsor the athletes.
Wana sponsor athletes, true.
Yeah, so tukitest athlete okay positive, atatuambia wewe si nini wadunga ile nini sasa
mbona mnachomea mtu wangu.
So it took a bit hampered that, but one of the things zenye tunaangalia pia ni so unakumbuka tuko na sports fund. Iko ring fenced ndio ina collecting easy funds.
True.
So we tumachetu imeangalia huko, we want to see whether we can ring fence something in future. As we said, sports in Kenya cannot be there without ADAK. Funga ADAK leo na sports yote imeisha. So we are looking at how we can go to get something from the sports fund, at least it will. Part of the things, of course, that we also want to seriously take on board is easy collaborations that tuko nazo, especially the local yenye tuko nayo. We've been working very well. Pharmacy poisons, watu wa airport, nini, migration. We've been doing a lot of work with them. But now we want to increase that. Nataka tukue na sittings. We want, unajua saa zingine mkiwa mnafanya na kazi na mtu, inafika mahali, you only work bila kuongea. Amuongelesha nangi anymore. So we want to foster that relationship. So those are the things that we are looking forward to. Now, of course, as I said earlier, CHAN ndio hii. World Champ ndio hii September. Tunapeleka timu gani Japan? Are we taking a clean team? Ama tunapeleka timu yenye iko hivi hivi? Hiyo ni jukumu yetu. So sisi kama ADAK tunatilia sana mkazo, especially kwa ile timu inakuwa selected na IK, tuta make sure tumewapatia the proper anti-doping education, wakuwa wanaelewa, na pia tufanye the sufficient number of tests zinafaa kufanywa, so that by the time tunaingia Japan, hakuna kuambiwa result ya huyu imetoka saa hii na kwa hapa anataka kuingia kwa track. So those are the things that we want to ensure that we make sure that we clean up. And going forward, of course, at the end of the next financial year, I will sit here, nikuje na report tuangalie.
True. Bildad Rogoncho, Head of Legal Services at the Anti-Doping Agency in Kenya, and also Dennis Kaitanyi, the Senior Compliance Officer at the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya, or if you like, ADAK. And of course, Bildad is still celebrating like PSG after winning the Champions League. Sasa sijui Kaitanyi ni wa timu gani, but anakaa Arsenal. Thank you very much, gentlemen, of course, for really sharing the report card from ADAK. Of course, soon we shall be engaging you in terms of, course, the progress you have made. Asanteni sana.
Thank you.
We are taking a very short break here on Sports Extravaganza. My name is Tony Kwalanda. But of course, we'll be back with swimming. Wala wanapenda swimming, pia wanafanyiwanga testing na doping. Kujua hivyo, kina Jenson, kina Brandlena, kina Rebecca, kina nani, wote wanakuanga kwa hiyo maneno. So we shall be first engaging the federation and those who matter there to tell us, of course, the state of swimming in the country. Don't go away.